been to Las Vegas, San Bernardino.
Hello and welcome back to the Pettoon channel. Well, last week's expose on conspiracy theories. If you haven't seen it, go back and have a look at it. It'll change your mind, I'm sure, on something. I don't know what, but it'll change it. We have had hundreds of letters, hundreds of comments, all from people wanting to tell me their own particular conspiracy theory. Now, we'll be going through them here on the Pettoon channel, and we'll be selecting a few, and I'll be doing a show on new conspiracy theories pretty darn soon, I can tell you. But now, we're going to head off to Ask Johnny. Now, I've told you, you haven't got the charisma to do the hosting job yet. Just ask the bloody questions. G'day, Johnny. It's great to be back here in the lovely Pettoon studios. G'day, Johnny. Welcome back. It's a beautiful day here on the Gold Coast, Queensland, Australia. Now, we've got a letter here from Reba, and Reba's in the Aleutian Islands, way up there near Alaska. Oh, the Pettoon channel is cutting a big sway through the ratings up there, I can tell you. But Reba goes on to say, Johnny, has the long-awaited report on what the US government knows about UFOs been released? I have heard very little. Will the Earth go into worldwide panic? Signed, Reba. What do you think about that, Johnny? The Congressional UFO report, it's been released. It's been released, Johnny. And despite waiting bloody 12 months for it, it hasn't fucking answered any questions at all. Yeah, it's hardly made a ripple.
Tonight, the highly anticipated report on unexplained aerial phenomena is here, but the answers are not. U.S. government officials examined 144 reports of UAPs like these and still don't know what 143 of them were.
You know, I thought it'd have old black and white photos and grainy old pictures from the 50s and 60s and bits of dead bodies of aliens and all that sort of stuff. But it was just about 8 pages of neatly typed bullshit. Yeah, of course. Yeah, we were having a barbecue here at the Pettoon channel, remember? You were here. A UFO document release barbecue, we called it. And we were having a great time here. And the bloody report came out and it was absolutely stuff all. Do you think they've told everything, Johnny? Everything they know? The conspiracy theorists are all thinking that the US Congressional UFO report that was just released is part of a conspiracy theory anyway, and they're not releasing all the details. Oh, you don't know that. And the Pettoon channel's UFO disclosure barbecue just deteriorated into a bloody shit fight. Back home in the 60s on the farm with black and white TV, if there was bloody UFOs flying around and a congressional report due to be released, everyone would be in hysterics. And I don't mean the funny sort. Oh yeah, back in the 60s everyone would have bloody shit themselves. And the word's been going around, does anybody give a shit anyway?
Have you ever considered that nobody really gives a shit?
And what a tragedy it would be if flying saucers landed on the White House front lawn amongst the roses and no one gave a stuff.
Eventually, nobody gives a shit.
Oh yeah, Johnny, and as you said the other day, if we were aliens, we'd avoid the Earth like the plague. Yeah, anyway, we've got another letter here, Johnny, from Julian, and Julian's in London. That's like the headquarters of the Pettoon channel. The Pettoon channel is making big inroads in London, let me tell you. Johnny, Julian says, or asks, I should say, Johnny, there are accusations everywhere on bias in the press towards political parties. How, in these days of sweeping changes, can we view news in confidence as unbiased? Or is that just a silly old man's dream with no chance of achievement? And that's from Julian in London. What do you think about that, Johnny? Bias in the press? Is that possible? Unbiased news? When I was a little boy back in the 60s on the farm with black and white TV, we did only get a couple of channels, and there was no question what the newsreader was reading out was bloody gospel. Yeah, but what's his name? That British comedian bloke who has his podcast, he's on it. Have a listen to this.
Wherever you are in the world, you may have noticed there were massive protests in London, England over the weekend. It was reported in a variety of ways. A lot of the reporting focused on the fact that it was diffuse and a number of issues were being discussed. But what is the real power of protest? What does it mean if legislation is passed that prevents protest? And why does the media report on protest in a way that diminishes its power or makes it seem ridiculous, ineffective or lacking in direction?
I didn't see anything on mainstream about that bloody big protest in England. And in the US, they got the left and right TV shows, current affairs shows, news shows. And one's telling you that everything's going okay on the Mexican border. Since Joey got in, everything's going fine. And there's another channel, Sky News, for instance, or Sky in the US, or wherever the hell it is, saying it's a bloody disaster down there. Two totally different stories.
Is facing a migration crisis as the number of people trying to cross the Mexico border reaches its highest level in almost 2 decades. Since the start of this year, 50,000 unaccompanied children have made it into America, while 180,000 people were detained in May alone.
I'm telling you, here in Australia, on mainstream TV, you hear bugger all about the Mexican border. Does it still exist? Do you think they've told everything, Johnny? Everything they know? And I saw a little snippet on the news, just this little snippet run along the bottom. I think it was Friday, that in France, which is coming out of lockdown supposedly, there were 3,500 new COVID cases on the day. We don't hear that. In the US, these rivaling sides of politics in the TV land, one of them showing you that poor old Joe's just about to go into a home for the bewildered. He's forgetting things and falling over and all sorts of stuff, and the other channel says he's a fine president and he's putting to that Russian bloke, what's his name? Well, both can't be right. Yeah, of course. Or is both true, that he's putting it to the Russian president, he's putting it to him, but he also is about to go into an old folks' home for the bewildered. Yeah, but Johnny, it's not always what the press is telling you. Sometimes it's what they're not telling you, what they're leaving out. And also what they're wanting you to think. Now, the poor old Trumpster, old Donald, Donald Trump, the press had it in for him right from the start, right or wrong. And when old Donald come out and said that the virus, COVID virus, came from a Wuhan lab, everyone sort of dismissed it as a bit of political bullshit.
China.
Now says he's seen evidence.
Yes, I have. And what gives you a high degree of confidence that this originated from the Wuhan Institute of Virology? I can't tell you that. I'm not allowed.
And the US press and the press all around the world had already made the Trumpster out to be a bit of a dickhead. So anything the Trumpster said shouldn't be taken seriously. Yeah, of course.
So what were the other potential origins? The uncertainty gave rise to the theory that COVID-19 may have originated in a nearby Wuhan Center for Disease Control, or the Wuhan Institute.
Now the thing is, believe it or not, the press isn't just there just to report whatever the government of the day tells them, whether it's Chinese government, US government, Australian government. They're there to investigate what they're telling us and find out if they're telling us the truth or not. Imagine back in the day with good old President Nixon. With Watergate. If you don't know what Watergate is, you young people, look it up. He told a whole lot of bullshit, the President of the United States, and instead of the press just going, all right, Mr. President, we believe you, a couple of blokes, a couple of reporters looked into it and found the President was telling a whole lot of bullshit, and the President was brought down. So you're saying, Johnny, old President Nixon was a crook, And if it wasn't for hard-hitting independent journalism, a press that didn't toe the government line, if it wasn't for these journalists, President Nixon would have got off. They found President Nixon was a crook, even though the president said he wasn't. Now we've got mainstream press just seemingly just going along with whatever the government tells them because they don't want to get in the wrong side of the government, because then they won't get access to any of the government officials for their stories. Yeah, of course. So they go along with them and don't really get into them to find out the truth of some of these matters. You seem to have a press that's more interested in chasing ratings than actually telling what the news is.
Sandro Gozzi say that publications from mainstream outlets are chasing after sensationalist news.
And if the press is too close to the government, well, you get all this sort of bloody trouble and no one knows what the hell's going on or who to believe. That's why they've been waffling on for the last 200 years about freedom of the press. The press these days seemingly has the ability to lead us all down the garden path if they happen to align with a political party. And we all get led down a garden path that we may or may not agree with. Yeah, of course. Now, I'm not saying, Johnny, the old Trumpster was right, but you have to have a press that doesn't get too close to the president, or as in Trump's case, gets too far away, because they won't believe a bloody word he says, even though what he's saying might be right. Oh yeah, back on the farm.
Vegas, San Bernardino.
Well, what a show. That's it for today. Tune in next time when I'm going to do a comprehensive survey of all the latest conspiracy theories. Don't miss it.